Another old man with a gun collection. This will take 5 minutes. That voice crackled through a walkie-talkie at 2:17 a.m. I heard it clearly through my workshop speakers, the same speakers connected to 17 hidden microphones spread across my property. The woman who said it had never met me. I had never bothered to learn my name. Had certainly never read the file that would have told her exactly who she was sending men to rob. Two shadows moved across my security monitors. Dark clothing, backpacks. The confidence of men who believed they were the predators in this scenario.
They crossed the south fence line at 2:14, paused at the back door at 2:16, and by 2:17, one of them was working a slim tool into my lock, while the other kept watch with all the situational awareness of a blind man in a thunderstorm. They found the armory door at 2:22. The taller one actually whistled when his flashlight beam caught the steel. 6 inches thick, custom built. The kind of door that makes professional safecrackers reconsider their career choices. But I had left it unlocked. The wheel turned easily. They stepped inside like children entering a candy store. Flashlight beams dancing across gun cases and ammunition storage, across decades of legally acquired and properly registered firearms that represented everything they thought they were about to steal. My thumb found the switch without looking. 31 years of muscle memory. Chunk. 6 inches of reinforced steel slammed home behind them. The electromagnetic lock engaged with a hum that vibrated through the walls, through the floor, through whatever remained of their confidence. The laughing stopped. Then came the pounding, the screaming, the bargaining, and finally, after about 4 minutes that probably felt like 4 hours to them, the begging. I poured myself a cup of coffee. It was going to be a long night for everyone except me. They thought they were stealing from some retired nobody. Some old man who would wake up confused and call 911 and file a police report would go nowhere because the people who sent these men owned half the county anyway. They did not know that the U.S. Marshal Service does not really let you retire. It just lets you stop wearing the badge. Before I tell you how 2 grown men ended up crying inside my vault, you need to understand what they walked into. Not just a room, not just a trap. A lifetime of preparation, meeting a lifetime of arrogance. And to understand that, we need to go back 72 hours, to a morning when I did not know their names, did not know their faces, and was simply enjoying the only piece of earth that had ever been given to me. The property came to me the way most things in my life have come, through someone else's tragedy. 12 years ago, I was assigned to protect a witness named Harold Pennington, accountant, a quiet man with thick glasses and a nervous habit of checking locks 3 times before going to bed. He had testified against a cartel money laundering operation that touched 3 state governments and 14 financial institutions. The kind of testimony that they crossed the south fence line at 2:14, paused at the back door at 2:16, and by 2:17, one of them was working a slim tool into my lock, while the other kept watch with all the situational awareness of a blind man in a thunderstorm. They found the armory door at 2:22. The taller one actually whistled when his flashlight beam caught the steel. 6 inches thick, custom built. The kind of door that makes professional safecrackers reconsider their career choices. But I had left it unlocked. The wheel turned easily. They stepped inside like children entering a candy store. Flashlight beams dancing across gun cases and ammunition storage, across decades of legally acquired and properly registered firearms that represented everything they thought they were about to steal. My thumb found the switch without looking. 31 years of muscle memory. Chunk. 6 inches of reinforced steel slammed home behind them. The electromagnetic lock engaged with a hum that vibrated through the walls, through the floor, through whatever remained of their confidence. The laughing stopped. Then came the pounding, the screaming, the bargaining, and finally, after about 4 minutes that probably felt like 4 hours to them, the begging. I poured myself a cup of coffee. It was going to be a long night for everyone except me. They thought they were stealing from some retired nobody. Some old man who would wake up confused and call 911 and file a police report would go nowhere because the people who sent these men owned half the county anyway. They did not know that the U.S. Marshal's service does not really let you retire. It just lets you stop wearing the badge. Before I tell you how 2 grown men ended up crying inside my vault, you need to understand what they walked into. Not just a room, not just a trap. A lifetime of preparation, meeting a lifetime of arrogance. And to understand that, we need to go back 72 hours, to a morning when I did not know their names, did not know their faces, and was simply enjoying the only piece of earth that had ever been given to me. The property came to me the way most things in my life have come, through someone else's tragedy. 12 years ago, I was assigned to protect a witness named Harold Pennington, accountant, a quiet man with thick glasses and a nervous habit of checking locks 3 times before going to bed. He had testified against a cartel money laundering operation that touched 3 state governments and 14 financial institutions. The kind of testimony that makes powerful people lose sleep and makes the person who gave it need 24-hour protection for the rest of their natural life. For 12 years, I moved Harold between safe houses. I watched him rebuild his identity in the shadows, sat in a surveillance van outside a church while his daughter got married, because witnesses do not get to attend family events like normal people. They get to watch from a distance and pretend that is enough. Harold died of natural causes last spring. His heart gave out at 79, which in witness protection is practically a victory lap. Most of the people I protected did not make it past 5 years. Harold made it to 19. That was not luck. That was preparation. Documentation, the willingness to trust someone else with your life every single day for almost 2 decades. His will surprised everyone except me. The property, all 19 acres of Texas hill country, went to the man who kept him alive long enough to die peacefully. The lawyers called it unusual. The Marshal's service called it a breach of protocol. I called it Harold, because that was exactly the kind of stubborn, grateful gesture he would make. I did not want it at first. Accepting gifts from witnesses creates complications, creates questions, creates paperwork that makes bureaucrats nervous. But Harold had no family left. His daughter had moved to New Zealand 3 years earlier and wanted nothing to do with the country that had forced her father into hiding. And buried in the legal documents, handwritten in Harold's cramped accountant script, was a note that changed my mind. Cormac, you gave me 19 years I was not supposed to have. This land gave me peace. Now it is yours. So I took it. 19 acres of cedar and limestone. A converted stable I turned into my armory. Security systems I installed myself because old habits die hard and trust dies harder. For 9 months, I had absolute silence. The kind of quiet that settles into your bones and makes you forget what it felt like to constantly watch doorways and check sight lines and sleep with one ear, always listening for sounds that should not exist. Then Ridgecrest Estates HOA moved in next door, and silence became a memory. Quick question while I set this scene. Where in the world are you listening from right now? Drop your country in the comments. I am genuinely curious how far this story travels. The young clerk at the hardware store watched me sort through motion sensors like I was defusing a bomb. Slow, methodical. Each unit tested twice before hitting the cart. He had that look young people get when they are trying to figure out if you are interesting or just strange. "Building something special?" he asked. "Replacing what time broke." He glanced at my hands, the calluses that never fully soften no matter how many years pass, the faded scar across my left knuckles from a doorframe in Corpus Christi back in 1997. Some things never heal pretty. Some things are not supposed to. "You military?" I placed a coil of fiber optic cable on the counter. "Something like that. Most people buy security cameras and point them at their front door. They think that is enough. One angle, one view, one chance to catch whatever happens to walk into frame." I was calculating overlapping fields of fire, blind spot elimination, and audio triangulation zones. Not because I expected trouble, because expecting trouble was the only reason I had survived long enough to stop expecting trouble. The last security system I built was for a safe house in El Paso. 17 cameras, 12 microphones, motion sensors calibrated to the weight differential between a human and a large animal. I spent 2 weeks making that place invisible to anyone who did not know exactly where to look. My partner, Delphine Rollins, was inside when the system failed. I was not. 7 years, 3 internal investigations, and 1 medical retirement later, I still wake up hearing her voice on the radio. The last transmission, before everything went silent. "Cormac, they are in the building. Cormac, I need..." Static. I do not build security systems because I am paranoid. I build them because I know exactly what happens when you trust someone else to protect what matters. And I know what it costs when that trust is misplaced. 31 years tracking fugitives teaches you things they do not put in training manuals. How to read a room by the way people position their bodies near exits. How to spot a lie before it finishes forming on someone's lips. How to wait. How to watch. How to build a trap that someone walks into thinking they are the predator. The white Mercedes appeared on my gravel road 3 days after I finished the new security installation. Wrong color for this landscape. Wrong shape for these roads. Wrong everything for a place where people drove trucks with mud on the tires and did not care what their neighbors thought about their choice of vehicle. The woman who stepped out dressed like she was attending a yacht auction instead of visiting a working property in rural Texas. Cream blazer that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Statement necklace with stones I did not recognize. Sunglasses that she removed with theatrical precision, like she wanted me to see her eyes and be impressed by whatever power she imagined they contained. Behind her, 2 men in matching light blue suits flanked the car doors. Clipboards, walkies, the uniform of people who need costumes to feel important. One of them was younger than the others, maybe 25, and his eyes kept darting around the property like he was cataloging everything he saw. The other moved with the thick confidence of someone who had never been seriously challenged in his professional life. "Good morning." Her voice carried that particular pitch, the one people use when they have already decided you are beneath them but need something from you anyway. "I am Gretchen Ashford, HOA president for Ridgecrest Estates." I kept sanding the fence rail I had been repairing. Old cedar, good bones, the kind of wood that deserves attention and does not care whether someone important is watching. "You are on private property." "Oh, I know. I just wanted to personally welcome you to the neighborhood." She smiled the way politicians smile when cameras are rolling. All teeth, no warmth, nothing behind it except calculation. "And discuss a few concerns." I had been oiling a rifle on my porch earlier that morning. Standard maintenance. Perfectly legal. The kind of thing Texans do the way other people water plants or wash their cars. The rifle was inside now, but the cleaning supplies were still on the porch table, and Gretchen's eyes locked onto them like they had personally insulted her bloodline. Is that firearm maintenance equipment? It is a Marlin 336. Been in service longer than your HOA has existed. Her face performed an impressive journey from shock to disgust to performative fear, all in about 3 seconds. I had seen that progression before, usually from people who wanted something and were about to use emotion as a weapon to get it. I have to say, that is extremely alarming. We have families in this neighborhood. We have standards. Your neighborhood is across the road. My property is not part of your HOA, and that rifle has not crossed my fence line in 9 months. That is not how community safety works, mister. I did not give her my name. Decades of federal service had taught me that names are currency. You do not spend them on people who have not earned them. You certainly do not hand them to strangers who show up uninvited and start making demands. She tried 3 more angles over the next several minutes. Environmental concerns about runoff that did not exist. Noise regulations that did not apply to property outside her jurisdiction. Something about aesthetic continuity that sounded like it came from a real estate brochure written by a robot with no understanding of how rural Texas actually works. I kept sanding. Finally, her practiced smile cracked enough to show the steel underneath. The real Gretchen Ashford, the one who had run this neighborhood for 17 years and was not accustomed to being ignored. Mr. Whoever you are, I have been running this community for 17 years. I have dealt with difficult residents before. They all eventually understand how things work around here. I looked up for the first time, met her eyes directly. Ma'am, I spent 31 years tracking people who did not want to be found. I know exactly how things work. Something flickered behind her perfect makeup. Recognition, maybe, or the first hint of fear. The kind of instinctive response that happens when prey realizes it has wandered too close to something dangerous. She left without another word. But she did not leave alone. She left with a plan. I could see it forming behind her eyes as she climbed back into that white Mercedes and instructed her driver to turn around on my gravel road. The first envelope arrived Tuesday morning. HOA letterhead, formal language, completely fabricated authority. Violation notice. Visible firearm storage constitutes community safety hazard. Fine, $500. Compliance deadline, 48 hours. I photographed it, filed it, waited. Wednesday brought a second notice. Unauthorized security equipment installation. Fine, $750. Thursday. Excessive privacy fencing obstructing neighborhood aesthetics. Fine, $1,000. By Friday, I had 11 violation notices totaling $6,400 in fines. For a property that was not part of their HOA, using regulations that did not exist, citing codes that someone had clearly invented over a long lunch and a bottle of wine. I created a file. Every envelope, every timestamp, every fingerprint I could lift from the paper surfaces. Old habits. The Marshal service taught me that paperwork wins more cases than confrontation. Document everything. Assume nothing will be believed without evidence. Build your case brick by brick until the wall is high enough that no one can climb over it. But I was not just documenting. I was learning. Learning the pattern. Learning the pace. Learning exactly how far Gretchen Ashford was willing to go to get what she wanted. They came with surveyor equipment they clearly did not know how to use. 3 men in matching light blue suits, standing at my gate at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, like they owned the road they were blocking. The lead one was tall and thick-necked, with a voice like gravel in a blender. "Mr. Slayton, we are here for a mandatory safety inspection regarding firearm storage." They knew my name now. That meant they had done research. That meant someone had told them who I was, or at least who they thought I was. A retired federal employee. A man living alone on property he should not be able to afford. An easy target. He held up a document. I did not touch it. I did not need to. I could read the mistakes from 5 feet away. Wrong county seal. Harris County instead of Kendall County. Subsection numbers that jumped from 4.3 to 4.7 without any explanation. Formatting inconsistent with any actual government document I had seen in 3 decades of federal service. That seal belongs to Harris County. We are in Kendall County, and Section 4.7 you are citing was repealed in 2019. His confidence flickered, just for a moment, just enough to confirm what I already suspected. Also, I continued, HOAs do not issue safety mandates. They issue fines, and even those only apply to member properties, which this is not. The younger one in back shifted his weight, the nervous one from Gretchen's first visit. Barely 25. Hands that could not stay still. Eyes that kept checking the tree line like he expected someone to emerge from the cedars and tell him this was all a terrible mistake. He knew this was wrong. I could see it in the way he would not meet my gaze, the way his jaw tightened every time the lead man spoke, the way his body language screamed discomfort while his mouth stayed silent. I filed that observation away for later. Nervous young men in bad situations often become useful sources of information when the pressure gets high enough. Sheriff Waylon Jessup had a face like weathered leather and a voice that sounded like it had been marinated in whiskey and disappointment. He had been running Kendall County for 22 years, and nothing surprised him anymore. He had seen every kind of fraud, every kind of dispute, every kind of petty human cruelty that people inflict on their neighbors when they think they can get away with it. Except maybe the document I handed him. "This is impressive," he said, not meaning it as a compliment. Someone went to real trouble making this look official, almost succeeded. Almost? He pointed to a line near the bottom. Notary seal. It is from a woman who died at 2021, Mildred Osborne. I went to her funeral. A forged document using a dead notary's seal. This was not amateur hour. This was not some HOA president with too much time and not enough oversight. This was organized, professional. The kind of operation that requires planning and resources and the confidence that no one will ever look close enough to notice. "Cormac, I have known who you are since you moved here. Your service record is not exactly secret to people who know where to look. But these HOA folks? They do not know. And they are not going to stop because you asked nicely. I am aware." He tipped his hat. "Just do not do anything I have to arrest you for. Paperwork is a nightmare. I noticed it first at the gas station. The way conversations stopped when I walked in. The way eyes tracked me across the store like I was carrying something contagious. Whispers that cut off mid-sentence when I got close enough to hear them. Then I found the flyers. Glossy paper. Professional printing. Color photos of my property taken from angles that required either a drone or trespassing. Dangerous resident alert. Former federal agent stockpiling weapons. Mental health concerns. History of aggression. Protect your families. The lies spread faster than truth ever could. Former federal agents became unstable. Stockpiling weapons became preparing for violence. A man who spent 3 decades protecting witnesses became the threat witnesses needed protection from. I recognized the technique: isolation, character assassination, the slow construction of a narrative that makes everything you do afterward look suspicious, no matter how innocent it actually is. I had seen cartels use it against witnesses. I had seen it destroy families, careers, and lives. Now someone was using it against me. Jessup called me in with that particular tone cops use when news is bad but necessary. The kind of voice that prepares you for something you do not want to hear. "They are building a case," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Formal complaints, 14 of them, all claiming you have brandished weapons, threatened residents, exhibited erratic behavior. All lies. I know, but lies with signatures are harder to ignore than truth without them." The folder contained names I did not recognize attached to incidents that never happened. A confrontation at a grocery store I had never visited. Threats shouted at a neighborhood meeting I had never attended. A pattern of intimidation that existed only in the imagination of whoever had written these complaints. They are pushing for a red flag petition. Mental health grounds. If they get enough documentation, a judge has to at least consider it. Red flag. The 2 words that could strip a man of his constitutional rights before he ever saw a courtroom. The legal mechanism designed to protect communities that could also be weaponized by anyone with enough paperwork and patience. Who is organizing this? Jessup's jaw tightened. Gretchen Ashford. But she has got help. Someone is feeding her legal language. She is not smart enough to know herself. I found him in the paper trail. Desmond Thacker, HOA treasurer, former attorney. Disbarred in 1998 for client fund misappropriation. The kind of man who learns from his mistakes, not by becoming honest, but by becoming better at hiding his dishonesty. His signature appeared on 12 of the 14 complaints. Same handwriting, same phrasing, different names. He was not just helping Gretchen. He was scripting the entire operation. I pulled property records, cross-referenced them with HOA financial reports I had obtained through a public records request. The kind of request that most people do not know they can make, and most HOA boards pray no one ever will. $847,000 had moved through Ridgecrest Estates accounts in 3 years. Less than $120,000 could be traced to actual maintenance or improvements. New roofs that were never installed. Landscaping projects that existed only on paper. Security upgrades that consisted of nothing more than signs and the salary of one young man who stood at a gate and pretended to check identification. The rest had vanished into shell companies with addresses that did not exist and officers who could not be found. Someone was bleeding this neighborhood dry, and they were trying to steal my guns to prevent me from discovering exactly how much blood was already on the floor. He found me at the hardware store, same parking lot where I had bought motion sensors 2 weeks earlier. Different energy, different purposes. Desmond Thacker moved like a man who had learned to survive by being underestimated. Soft voice, gentle handshake, eyes that calculated everything they touched and revealed nothing of what they concluded. "Mr. Slayton, might I have a moment?" "You already have it." He smiled. The kind of smile that never reaches past the lips. The kind that lawyers practice in mirrors until it becomes automatic. "I understand there has been some friction between you and our community leadership. I wanted to offer my services as a mediator. You are the one writing the complaints." His smile did not falter. "I draft documents for the board, administrative assistance, nothing more. Using different resident names, same handwriting." The smile finally cracked. Just a hair. Just enough to show me I was right. You are more observant than Gretchen described. I spent 30 years finding people who did not want to be found. Observation is not a skill. It is breathing. He abandoned the pretense of mediation. His voice dropped to something more honest, which somehow made it more dangerous. Let me be direct, Mr. Slayton. Your property is valuable. 19 acres with water rights and road access? That is worth $2.3 million in the current market. We are prepared to offer $800,000. Cash. Quick closing. No complications. It is not for sale. Everything is for sale at the right price. Not everything. He straightened his tie. A practiced gesture. A closing statement delivered to countless clients and opponents over decades of legal manipulation. The red flag petition will succeed. You will lose your firearms. Then we will file civil complaints. Nuisance claims. Environmental violations. The legal fees alone will drain whatever savings you have. And when you cannot pay, we will be waiting with that offer. Except it will not be $800,000 anymore. I leaned close. Close enough to smell the cologne he used to hide the desperation underneath. Close enough to see the slight tremor in his jaw that betrayed how much he needed this scheme to work. 31 years ago, I tracked a man across 4 states for 18 months. He thought he was smarter than everyone in the room. Thought he could outrun federal jurisdiction. Thought he could threaten his way to freedom. I straightened. He has been in Leavenworth for 29 years. They tell me he is very well behaved now. Desmond's mask slipped entirely. For just a moment, I saw the fear underneath. The knowledge that he had miscalculated something important. That the old man with the gun collection might not be as easy to push around as he had assumed. Then the mask returned. He nodded once, turned, and walked back to his sedan without another word. But the conversation was not over. It had just changed venues. Beckham Cole found me that evening. The nervous one. The young guard who could not meet my eyes during the fake inspection. He came on foot. No vehicle. No uniform. Just a manila envelope and the kind of fear that makes people do brave things when they realize they have been set up to take the fall. Mr. Slayton, I need to tell you something. His hands shook as he passed me the envelope. I did not know what they were planning. Not at first. I took this job because I needed tuition money. The security coordinator sounded legitimate. I thought I would be checking identification and calling tow trucks for illegally parked cars. Not this. Never this. But it was not legitimate. No, sir. Inside the envelope, USB drive, printed emails, payment records that painted a picture of conspiracy so clear that even a first-year law student could have built a prosecution around it. $52,400 transferred to a company called Rapid Asset Recovery, a repo outfit from San Marcos with a reputation for taking jobs that legitimate firms would not touch. The kind of company that asks no questions and accepts cash payments for services that no one puts in writing. The email chain was damning. Target property, Slayton. Timeline, between 1 and 3 a.m. Objective, remove all firearms for community safety assessment. Authorization, Ashford. Community safety assessment. The language of legitimacy wrapped around an act of burglary. The kind of phrasing that lawyers create so their clients can claim confusion later when everything falls apart. There is more, Beckham said, his voice cracking. They have drafted statements saying I authorized everything. My forged signature on 3 invoices. If this goes wrong, I am the one they are sending to prison. Why tell me? He finally met my eyes. Young, scared, but not stupid. and not willing to be someone else's scapegoat. Because I read your file. Mrs. Ashford has a dossier on everyone in the county who might cause problems. Yours mentioned 31 years of federal service. Mentioned a partner who died. Mentioned a reputation for never letting cases go unsolved. He swallowed. I figured if anyone would believe me, it would be someone who has been framed before. I looked at the evidence in my hands. Emails with timestamps, payment records with account numbers, a timeline that gave me less than 24 hours to prepare. When? Tomorrow night. 1 to 3 a.m. 2 contractors. Vance Pritchard and Earl Bowden. Earl is Mrs. Ashford's nephew. He thinks he is doing legitimate work. And Pritchard? Ex-repo. Does not care what is legal as long as the check clears. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I built 17 microphones positioned to capture audio from every room and every approach. 12 cameras with overlapping fields that eliminated blind spots. Motion sensors calibrated to distinguish between the weight of a deer and the weight of a human being. Audio recording systems backed up to 3 separate cloud servers with automatic timestamp verification that no lawyer could claim had been tampered with. And the armory. 6-inch steel door with an electromagnetic lock that engaged with 8,000 pounds of holding force. Interior cameras with night vision capability. A speaker system that would let me communicate with anyone inside without ever opening that door. They were going to walk into a trap designed by someone who had spent 30 years perfecting the art of patience. Someone who knew that the best way to catch a predator was to let them think they were hunting. Are you sure about this? Jessup asked when I laid out Beckham's evidence. The emails are time-stamped. The payments are traceable. The contractor licenses are verifiable. He exhaled slowly. If you are wrong, we are both going to look very stupid. I have been wrong before. Not about this. What do you need from me? 7 to 9 minutes response time, and maybe a pot of coffee. It is going to be a long night. He looked at the evidence one more time. The emails, the payment records, the timeline that would begin in less than 12 hours. Federal marshals do not forget training, he said quietly. They just get more patient. That is what they tell me. He stood, reaching for his hat. I will have deputies positioned at the county line. Call comes in. We will be there in 7 minutes. Maybe 6 if the roads are clear. I watched him drive away. Then I went back to work. If you are still here at this point, you have walked this road with Cormac for a while now. What would you have done in his position? Leave a badge emoji in the comments if you would have sprung the trap. Leave a lock emoji if you would have waited for backup. Midnight came and went. The house sat dark except for a single light in the bedroom, timer-controlled, visible from the road. The kind of light that says someone is home, probably asleep, probably unaware of anything happening outside their walls. I was in the workshop, monitors glowing blue in the darkness, coffee cooling in a mug I had not touched in hours. Waiting the way I had waited in 1,000 surveillance vans, 1,000 dark corners, 1,000 moments before everything changed. 12:47. Motion alert. South fence. 2 figures. Moving low. Moving with the confidence of men who had done this kind of work before and believed they were good at it. They were not good at it. They were just lucky that most of their previous targets had been too scared or too unaware to fight back. Camera 3 caught them crossing the tree line. Dark clothing. Backpacks large enough to carry a significant haul. One of them carried what looked like bolt cutters. The other moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who had picked locks professionally. Camera 6 showed them approaching the back door. Camera 9 captured the moment Vance Pritchard pulled a slim tool from his pocket and started working the lock. 30 seconds. 45. The door swung open. Amateurs. They did not even check for cameras, did not sweep the door frame for sensors, did not pause to assess whether the darkness might be watching them back. 1:18 a.m. They were inside. I watched them sweep the hallway with flashlights. 2 wide movements. 2 loud whispers. They had watched too many movies, learned nothing useful from any of them. Kitchen is clear. Check the bedroom. Forget the bedroom. Ashford said the armory is in the basement. Let us get this done. They found the armory door at 1:22. Earl, Gretchen's nephew, actually whistled, a low sound of appreciation that his aunt would probably have found gratifying. Holy cow! Look at this. Steel door, vault lock. This guy has got serious hardware. Vance tried the wheel. It turned. Smooth. Easy. Exactly as I had left it. We are in. They stepped inside. The flashlight beams danced across gun cases, across ammunition storage, across decades of legally acquired firearms that represented everything they believed they were about to steal. Vance pulled out a bag. Start with the handguns. Faster to move. Earl hesitated. Something in his body language suggested the first flicker of doubt. This feels wrong. The check will not feel wrong. Move. My thumb found the switch. 31 years of muscle memory. Chunk. 6 inches of steel. Electromagnetic lock. 8,000 pounds of holding force. The sound echoed through the speakers like judgment finally arriving. Inside the vault, chaos replaced confidence in the span of a single heartbeat. What the... The door. The door. Vance threw himself against it. Nothing. Earl spun the wheel with both hands. It did not move. The electromagnetic lock is held with the kind of force that makes grown men understand exactly how small they are in the face of proper engineering. It is locked. It locked behind us. That is impossible. Doors do not. This one does. I clicked the intercom. Let my voice fill the space they had thought they were stealing from. Gentlemen. They froze. Both of them. Flashlights pointing at each other's terrified faces. The audio feed captured every detail, every breath, every whispered prayer that would not save them from what came next. You have just committed felony breaking and entering, attempted grand theft, and you are currently standing inside a vault that does not open from the inside. Vance recovered first. The denial phase. The desperate grasp at any explanation that might make this situation less catastrophic than it obviously was. We have authorization. Ashford gave us paperwork. This is a legal seizure. The authorization you are referring to was issued by a private citizen with no legal authority over this property, which means you are not repo contractors. You are burglars. Earl started hyperventilating. The sound of it through the speakers was almost pitiful. Almost. She said it was legal. She lied. And now you are both looking at 5 to 15 years. The begging began approximately 4 minutes after the door closed. Vance's voice cracked in ways that stripped away every ounce of the tough guy persona he had cultivated over years of intimidating people who could not fight back. Please, please let us out. We will leave. We will never come back. We did not know. You knew enough to break a window at 2 a.m. You knew enough to bring bags to carry stolen property. You knew. Then Earl made the mistake I had been waiting for. The words that would seal Gretchen Ashford's fate more completely than any evidence I had already collected. Call her. Call Mrs. Ashford. She will fix this. She said she would fix anything that went wrong. Say that again. Louder. For the recording. His face went white. Even through the night vision camera feed, I could see the color drain from his skin. Recording? 17 microphones, 12 cameras. Every word you have said since crossing my fence line is now evidence. Red and blue lights appeared on the gravel road at 2:31. Sheriff Jessup did not rush. He never did. Just walked up to my workshop like he was checking on a neighbor's fence repair instead of responding to a burglary in progress. Are they still in there? Have not moved in 12 minutes. One of them might be crying. Jessup nodded. That happens. I keyed open the vault remotely. The door swung wide with the same smooth motion that had welcomed them inside. Vance and Earl stumbled out like men escaping a tomb, pale, shaking, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Two deputies were waiting with cuffs that clicked into place with a sound I had heard thousands of times over 31 years. Gentlemen, Jessup said almost kindly, you have the right to remain silent. I strongly recommend you use it. As they were loaded into cruisers, Earl looked back at me. Not with anger, with something worse. Understanding. She set us up, he whispered. She set all of us up. Yes, I said. She did. The Kendall County Courthouse smelled like old justice. Wood polish and paper dust and the accumulated weight of 1,000 decisions that had shaped lives and destroyed them in equal measure. Gretchen Ashford arrived like she was attending a charity gala. Hair perfect, smile practiced, surrounded by lawyers who billed more per hour than most people earned in a day. She did not know about the evidence yet. None of them did. Beckham Cole sat 3 rows back, hands clasped, looking like a man waiting for either salvation or execution. He had testified fully, cooperating witness status. Everything he knew about the scheme laid out in depositions that filled 400 pages. Gretchen's legal team presented their case first. Charts showing my property's proximity to family homes. Graphs illustrating theoretical dangers of firearm storage. Testimonials about community safety from residents who had never met me, and incidents that had never occurred. They were good, professional, convincing. They were also about to be destroyed. District Attorney Martha Penrose approached the bench with a tablet. Your Honor, we have additional evidence to present. She played the footage. 2 men breaking a window. 2 men searched my hallway. 2 men stepped into my vault with bags ready to carry away everything they could grab. And then the door. Chunk. The courtroom collectively held its breath. Then the audio, the panic, the screaming, and most importantly, the words that no amount of legal maneuvering could explain away. Call Mrs. Ashford. She will fix this. She said she would fix anything that went wrong. Gretchen's face journeyed from confusion to realization to terror in about 4 seconds. Her lead attorney started whispering urgently. She pushed him away. That has been edited. That is not real evidence. The metadata confirms continuous recording, Penrose replied. We also have financial records, email correspondence, and testimony from a cooperating witness. Beckham stood when his name was called. Voice shaky but clear. Mrs. Ashford authorized the break-in. She paid for it with HOA funds. She forged my signature on invoices. and she told the contractors that Mr. Slayton's property was under HOA jurisdiction, which it never has been. Judge Cordelia Hartzell removed her glasses slowly, the gesture of someone who has seen more corruption than most people could imagine and still finds herself occasionally surprised by the depths of human greed. Mrs. Ashford, you orchestrated a home invasion using community funds. You forged documents to manufacture fake authority. You attempted to frame subordinates for your crimes. She paused. And you did all of this to steal firearms from a retired Deputy United States Marshal. Gretchen's composure shattered completely. The mask she had worn for 17 years finally cracked beyond repair. He does not belong here. He is not one of us. That property should have been developed years ago. We had plans. We had investors. And there it was. The truth underneath 17 years of HOA tyranny. Not community safety, not aesthetic standards, just real estate manipulation, property by property, family by family, until everything valuable was under her control. Desmond Thacker tried to leave through the back door. Deputies were waiting. Mr. Thacker, you are under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and misappropriation of community funds. He did not resist. Men like him never do when the game is truly over. The charges took 90 seconds to recite. Conspiracy to commit burglary, filing false documents, embezzlement exceeding $500,000, witness intimidation, criminal fraud, attempted theft of firearms. Gretchen Ashford sat motionless as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. They brought her out the front door. Deliberate choice. Let the cameras see. Let the neighborhood watch. A crowd had gathered. Residents. Reporters. People who had been fined thousands for grass height and mailbox colors and cars parked 1 inch over invisible lines. One woman stepped forward. Mid-50s. Tired eyes. Worn hands that had spent years writing checks to cover fines for violations that existed only in Gretchen's imagination. 17 years, she said quietly. 17 years you made my life miserable over a fence that was 2 inches too tall. 2 inches. Gretchen did not respond. Could not. The weight of accumulated cruelty finally had a voice, and it was not hers. The Ridgecrest Estates HOA dissolved within a week. Unanimous vote. No opposition. Forensic accountants traced $847,000 in misappropriated funds across 4 years. 7 families received restitution for illegal fines. 14 properties that had been sold under duress were flagged for legal review. The neighbors came one by one. The people who had avoided me, who had believed the flyers, who had signed complaints written by hands that were not their own. I am sorry. We did not know. She made it sound so reasonable. I accepted every apology, not because I needed them, because holding grudges weighs more than forgiveness, and I had carried enough weight for 1 lifetime. Beckham Cole stopped by my property a month later. Different posture, clearer eyes, the look of a young man who had walked through fire and came out understanding something important about the difference between following orders and doing what is right. I got into law school, criminal justice focus. Going to be a lawyer? Going to be the kind of lawyer who stops people like Gretchen before they spend 17.
Thanks for staying to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to IS Stories.